Right, installation guide on how to install step by step this OCIOC ceiling fan. This is pretty lightweight, so I'm sure once you open up the box, it will come like this, where you will have this ceiling plate where pretty much 4 screws are holding it, but we're going to remove 2 that are just going through the base, and you're gonna leave the 2 in there. So now we will have to assemble this unit while we have it here on the ground before we put it up there in the ceiling. So you can see the blades. One side has 1 hole, the other side has a 2 hole. So you can see I'm going to be putting the 2 hole side facing up, and there are holes up there in those basements right there, where we will be utilizing those little holes to be basically dropping the screws that came with and pretty much tightening them. And make sure, I mean, if you have screwdriver, Phillips screwdriver that has a magnetic ending, which is mine, which makes it a lot easier to assemble it. So the whole process shouldn't take you more than 30-40 minutes to put it together and put it up there. So in my case, it was pretty easy to do so. So I'm pretty much doing a little bit of maybe couple threads of tightening, and I'm pretty much going to use a longer extension, and just to speed up this process, I'm going to be using my drill and tightening it with my drill. But you can use Phillips head screwdriver, it will be perfectly fine, but this part could be a bit tricky for a lot of people. So if screw is not going in smoothly, you have to stop. You don't want to mess up the threads in the motor right there, where you're going to be mounting the blades. So make sure when you're tightening the screws, they go in just smoothly, okay? So, and then I'm flipping it and tightening the bottom side where we only have 1 screw. So this whole part, I mean, when you are building these blades, if you pay attention, they kind of like stick on one another, so there shouldn't be any gap when you're sticking them together. So I'll show you right here, where I'm kind of like sliding in from one side, wherever the existing blade you can see already touched, and I will be just sliding in the other one where it will just kind of like sits nicely on top of the other, or pretty much there won't be any gap, okay? So after making sure that I put it the blade went in there just fine, then I will be putting the screws in there. So I have put many of these fans, and it's kind of like automatic for me to do it. But if you if it takes a little bit of a time for you, I mean, that's normal. Don't get frustrated. So yeah, what I'm doing is I'm essentially making sure the top 2, you can see the order that I'm doing. So I'm first going from the top, because once I locate 2 top holes and put those 2 screws in, well, the bottom should be right there. So it's pretty easy, and I can just tighten it from there. And the last one is going to be the same thing. Make sure that when you put it, so just lift it, look around, make sure that it sits tight on both ends before you try to tighten those 2 screws, okay? So once you do that, it will be super simple, super easy. And after that, you can mount the LED, but I did it at the end. So what I'm doing here now is basically connecting the receiver for the remote control. And when you're connecting these connectors, make sure all the wires are aligning with one another. So red to red, black to black, and white to white, okay? Same thing with these 2 connectors. I mean, make sure they won't go in if you are basically messing it up. So, and then once I'm done with this part, I only have neutral wire, white wire, that I have to connect to the power, and then black wire, which is hot wire, that I need to connect it up there inside of the electrical box. So once this assembly part is done, I'm gonna go attach the base into the electrical box. You can see how my electrical box is sitting right there. So the screws that they provided are a bit short for me, okay? So these screws are 832, but I don't know what kind of electrical box you're gonna have, but if you have any plastic box like this, I recommend using much longer screws. I'm using 2-inch screws, and I'm using those washers that they gave to tighten this box in there. Okay, so once I'm done with this part, you can see what I'm doing right there. These two screws should be just fine, because this fan, the whole purpose of this fan, I mean, you can mount it anywhere, literally any electrical box, but you just have to make sure that you have enough thread inside of the box so it doesn't become wobbly or just doesn't fly off the ceiling when you mount the fan. So now we're going to connect the grounds together, and we will have to make sure all of these connections that we are making with the wire nuts, they go back into the electrical box, okay? You don't want to keep them in here by the receiver, okay? So you can see I connected the ground and kind of like shouted in through the hole. And make sure when you're connecting these wires, I mean, I couldn't film this part, but make sure when you align those two wires together, the stranded wire from the fan sticks out a little bit more, so when you tighten the wire nut, it doesn't slip off, okay? Because many times people get to this point where they will do everything right, but once they put the wiring inside of the electrical box, since they didn't do a good job of tightening those wire nuts, it will become loose and it won't work, or it will just become loose after working for a bit, okay? So very important. And you can see I'm gonna be basically hanging it right there on those two screws. And what I'm gonna do before I tighten those screws, I will get those two that I removed in the beginning of the video, and I will tighten those two first, and then I will be basically tightening those two that are on the sides that have a little bit of a gap right there. You can see it's not like a through, you can just twist it on. So those will be tightened last in my case. So this is what I would recommend to do as well, but just make sure that it doesn't come off. But even if it comes off, there's a hook holding it, so should be fine. And I was referring to this LED light. I mean, this could have been done on the floor, but I did it at the end. But same situation, make sure white to white, black to black, and this connector should go in there nicely, okay? So, and then the last step, you're gonna be turning on the switch, and when you turn it on, the LED light will come on, and then you can test it out, the speed and the fan itself. Thanks for watching. That's the video.